Welcome back, everyone, to the Gather Poets podcast. I have a very special guest with us today, none other than our beautiful, wonderful Jillian Stacia. Jillian is a writer, a mother, a creative person. What else, Jill? Introduce yourself. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, no, you nailed it. Writer, mother, creative, poet, Ravens fan, whatever.
Um, I'm so I feel like it's been such a long time coming, just like sitting down and chatting with you. We've been writing together for what, like a year and a half now, if not even
Yes.
like around there, I think.
Yes.
Meeting you was one of the most special things I think I've ever like experienced. Meeting writers in general, but it's not often you meet someone that you just like instantly click with. And even though we're in very different seasons of our life, I feel like we have a lot of the same values when it comes to writing and poetry, and that always feels really special to me.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I'm curious, like, how did poetry find you, and where did poetry start for you in your sort of journey?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I think back, I definitely have always been a poet. I used to write poems as a kid. I love creative writing in high school. I was just always into it. But then I kind of put it on the back burner and I went to college and studied communications and started off in marketing and PR. So I always did writing, but it was kind of like creative writing adjacent. Like I never really believed in myself fully enough to be like, I'm going to do poetry or I'm going to be, a novelist. Even though that's really what I wanted to do, I was like, I didn't think that I could actually do it. So I tried to get the closest possible career. Um, but once I was, working in marketing and I was doing well, but I just didn't, love it that much. There's only so much you could say about like office furniture, which is what I was doing at the time, writing copy for office furniture. Um, so I started doing like a lot of creative nonfiction essays, and I knew once I had kids at the time, I had just gotten married, that I wanted to be like a freelancer and sort of do this copywriting on the side. But I also really liked writing all these creative essays and poetry and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I had my kids and I did end up leaving my job and being a freelancer, and doing that I was experimenting around with different like creative forms, but I couldn't write like the essays anymore. They were just so long and my brain was so fried that like I just started sort of playing around in my notes app and coming up with like these weird images or metaphors. What? I didn't even know what it was. And then finally it clicked like, oh, I'm trying to write like a poem here. And then once I was able to do that, and kind of put it together, I started like just putting them on Instagram and I got a good response, which made me keep going. And then just slowly just fell more and more in love with poetry and that became my thing. And yeah, here I am.
Mhm. I love that you, like, accidentally discovered that you like to write poetry just by, like, one day realizing, "Oh, I'm actually writing poems." I think that's so funny,
Yeah.
and I think it, like, speaks to the fact that we don't always find poetry, but, like, it finds us in
Yeah.
these moments that we need it the most. Do you feel
Mhm.
like, do you feel like because you went through, like, the journey of becoming a mother, that that poetry met you at the right time? Like, did it feel aligned?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, like I said, I knew I needed something creatively. Like I've always been a creative person. I've always been a writer. But I just couldn't like do like a long form project or the mental like space. And then so once I started, like I thought I was just taking notes for an essay or maybe this would be a book or I thought it was going to be a longer project, but then once I started like being like, "Oh, okay. This is a poem. This is what this wants to be." It just like the floodgates opened and I was just hit with inspiration everywhere and it really is such a great art form for mothers because it is so it can be, quick or short, or it's just it can meet you wherever you are. You can see like a tree on your on your walk and like just jot that down, and then later that can create, can spark a full length poem or something. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely met me where I was, and I always say poetry is like the closest I come to experiencing magic. It just feels like something takes over, and that's really cool feeling.
Mm. Oh, I love that. That gives me, like, the shivers just hearing it. I totally agree. I think sometimes we need, like, a short, quick, almost, like, digestible way to just create in, like, small moments throughout the day, and I remember when I was working my corporate accounting job, I used to just walk on my lunch. There was this beautiful park by my office. It was before anyone worked from home, so we were all in the office every single day, and I would go into this park, and I didn't really even know they were poems either, but I would just, like, write little moments and pieces down, from what I would notice. Like, there was a squirrel that used to always come up to my car, and I think it was because I fed it peanuts one time. I don't think you're supposed to do that, so don't sue me. Um, but, like, it was really important for me, especially working a corporate accounting job that felt very, like, soul-sucking, to
Mhm.
like, make time to create little things throughout the day, even if they're not complete, even if they're not, like, profound, even if they're not going to become, like, an award-winning poem. But just those little moments of creation, I think, is what keeps us going. It's like our food almost for our soul.
Yes, absolutely. And you need that, especially as a new mom, like, you need those moments so bad, so that's why, it really poetry, like, saved me in more than one way, so
I love that. I know there are a lot of other mothers in our writing community Gather. So Jill and I have been writing together in Gather since the beginning, which
yes.
is
I'm an
such a
OG gather girl.
pleasure. She is right from the beginning. The first time I ever ran around of Gather, Jill was there, and she's been a crucial part of our community ever since. But we've attracted a lot of mothers to the group, which I think is so wonderful. I myself would like to become a mother one day. Not yet, but hopefully one day. I think I'm always really inspired at, a mother's ability to prioritize writing in what I can imagine, like, the most busiest life of ever, and so I think, like, it's very inspiring for people who are writers that are not mothers yet, but would like to become mothers one day to see other mothers, like, prioritizing their writing and their craft and even their other writing projects. W what was that something that came naturally to you, or did it like, were you ever nervous, I guess? My question is sorry, I'm rambling. My question is, were you nervous before becoming mother about how that would affect your creativity?
Yes, I was, but I think I went into it, like I was saying, when I was working, a full-time marketing job, I knew I wanted to, like, eventually be a freelance creative and do copywriting and do other projects. So I always knew, like, I wanted to live, like, a creative motherhood, like, life, like, that was always my plan. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I love that she was always around, and I was just trying to, like, reconcile, like but I knew, like, I needed to do something. I couldn't just be a stay-at-home mom, like, I would drive myself crazy, but I wanted to be home, so I really tried to, like, envision what my motherhood experience would look like, and it was always, like, balancing writing and raising kids, and I'm, like, so happy that I was able to do that, like, it's just such a cool feeling to be like, "Wow, I manifested this." Like, I love that I can work all morning and then go volunteer in my daughter's kindergarten class and then I'm home when they get off the bus. So, I always knew that I was gonna have to find a way to balance these 2 things, um, but it ebbs and flows, like, that's one piece of advice. It's like when you are a new mother and there are some people in Gather that have, like, really young, babies, like, I mean, I think Alex has a toddler and, Alexa has a baby, like, and I don't know how they do that because when you have a young baby, your brain is not working the same. Like, you're not sleeping, you're pulled in so many different directions. So it's so hard to, like your schedule's not your own, so it's hard to set aside time that you're going to work on your writing and then, your baby doesn't, sleep through the night or, gets sick or, like, things just come up. So you have to be disciplined enough to set aside that time, but also flexible to know that like things are gonna go wrong, like changes are inevitable, like you just kind of have to give yourself grace to know that your schedule is going to change, but you still need to be like determined enough to like schedule that time and to fight for it and to protect it. So it's kind of like grit and grace. You've got to like be, you got to push forward, but you've also got to be like, okay, sometimes you just need to take a nap and that's okay. So knowing yourself, knowing when you need to push and when you need to, step back and just recenter yourself is important. And like that changes for everyone. Like I can already tell Maria, when you have kids, you're going to be like feeling like you're not doing enough. And I'm going to be like, Maria, girl, take a nap. You've already done too much because you're just the type of person I know that, pushes and likes to get stuff done. But if you're more like type B or like to chill, you might need to be like really regimented about when you write because your windows of time are so much shorter as a mother.
Mhm. Oh, that's such good advice. I wanna just tattoo that all on my skin right now so that I remember it for when I become a mother.
Yes.
Um, it's interesting, I feel like I'm at a season of my life right now where for the first time I'm envisioning what it's going to be like to become a mother. Like, we moved to this beautiful neighborhood that we're absolutely in love with, and I'm walking down, to my coffee shop, and I'm walking past, like, the Montessori daycare, and I'm like, "Oh, I would like to send my child there one day." And Corey and I are going for a walk past this little creek that's in our backyard, and we're like, "Ooh, like our kids are gonna love that hill for biking," you know? And so it feels like for the first time, like tangibly, I can kind of picture what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm trying to picture too is how is my writing going to fit in with becoming a mother? And
Mm.
one of the things I'm actually really excited for is to write motherhood poetry. I feel like
I'm
I have
excited for you to write motherhood poetry. Like the world is excited. We need those Maria motherhood poems. They're gonna be fire.
Thank you so much. It's exciting because I get so much FOMO when all of you write these wonderfully beautiful, heart-wrenching, beautiful poems. Last round of Gather, Allison, like, she's just an
Oh, yeah.
incredible mother and poet, and her motherhood poems really move me as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, very excited. I think I wanna come back to this idea of maybe, like, discipline and what that looks like, just as a writer in general, but also maybe as, being a mother and a writer. Do you have, like, a specific writing routine you stick to? Or how do you ensure that your writing projects sort of take place and happen and make sure they get finished? I know recently you finished the first draft of your novel, so maybe you can talk about that in context to, like, your writing habits.
Yes. So I do my best like creative thinking, creative work in the morning. I am useless after 8 p.m. Like my brain shuts off. Which is inconvenient as a mother because they go to bed early and they get up early. So, but now my kids are a little older. My son is 7, my daughter's 6. So they're sleeping, through the night, get up at a normal time. So I like to get up early, like 5:30 ish and write like for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and that's when I try to focus on just my word count if I'm writing the novel. I like to set like a goal of number of words. Usually sometimes it's usually between 500 and 1,000 words. Just something that I think I can realistically hit. And if I go past it, that's fine. But if I can't, um, but I want to know I'm going to get there because if it's too far, then I'll get discouraged and I'll stop. So I need to give myself an easier win. So I do that in the morning, or if I'm not working on the novel or a longer form piece of writing, then I'll kind of do the same thing with poetry and just um, keep writing, like not editing, but just get the creative ideas out there. So I'll do that, and then later on, after my kids are in school and I have, like, the house to myself again, I'll do more, like, editing or, um, I don't know, that kind of other work that's not drafting. And then sometimes I'll go back and forth, but the main creative writing is usually done in the morning for me. But and every day looks different, like I said, especially as a mother, like, the routines are hard, but I try to do something, in service of my writing every day, even if it's not actually writing, like, even if it's just reading a poem or, writing down an idea that I had or something that I saw on a walk, just something to, like, keep the juices flowing. I just try to, like, tap into that every day. So it doesn't have to be this big, massive thing. It can just be, a small action that you do to kinda keep your creative self alive in there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know me, I'm a morning writer as well. I wake up at like 6, maybe 6:30, and just like a a good coffee and a blank page like in the morning is so exciting to me. I think is that's a really good thing that you mentioned about having these sorts of small little moments, even if you're not writing like a long piece or a long thing. I find that even if I'm not in the mood to write poetry, even if I go look through my drafts or look through some of my finished pieces and put together like 2 or 3 in a submission package that I might in the future submit, or like go and just read the poem of the day on the Poetry Foundation. I almost do that every single morning
Yeah.
as well. Like, that's how I've discovered a lot of my favorite poets is just that poem of the day, because they just have the most wonderful poems every day, and they're all by poets I don't or for the most part, they're by poets that I don't know yet. It's actually where I find a lot of the poems that we study and gather as well.
Okay. All
They
right.
just come to me every day, beautifully little curation.
I know. I don't do that. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good way to,
Yep.
get inspiration too for what you're going to write about that day
Right.
if you read
Mhm.
first, and then one of my favorite quotes is, it's actually probably not a quote. I don't know, I'm the worst for, like, I think there's a quote out there, I have no idea who said it, I
Yeah.
just heard it at one point.
I feel you. I
Um
feel you.
But I think it was somebody said this once in an interview, a poet, that they don't write until they read until they have to write. So they'll just
Mhm.
read and read and read until they're inspired enough that they have to write, and I really resonate with that. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of the time when I'm reading, taking that moment, even like you said, if all you have time for is to read a poem, maybe that will spark, like, an idea or something for your own
Mhm.
poem
Mhm. Yeah.
as well. Speaking of poetry, who are your favorite poets and like who made you fall in love with poetry? And has that sort of like changed over the years?
Well, Ada Limon is my favorite poet. And she definitely made me fall in love with poetry. And that has not changed. She's still my favorite poet. Um, I don't even know like the first poem I read by her, but she was the first poet that I was like, "Oh, I don't know, I clicked." Like there was something in it that like stirred something inside of me. I really don't like flowery poetry or, like any of the poetry we studied in high school, I really don't like. Like, and that really turned me off from poetry for a long time. But I like poetry that talks about the real stuff, the darkness. I love a good what I call gut punch in a poem at the end. And Ada Limon is just great with that. Her poem, I think it's trying Like a Girl, the Fame of my all-time favorites for sure. Yeah, so
That's
I
so
love
good.
yes. I love Sylvia Plath, she's famous. I don't think we studied her in high school, but she's an older poet, that I love, and I write about her all the time. She always comes up in my poetry. I do love Mary Oliver, of course, nature. Um, I like who else I like? Ellen, is it Bass or Bass? We have this Ellen, we love you. Come
We do.
together. Tell us how to say your name. But yeah, I definitely like more I don't want to say accessible, but like poets that talk about like, real things that I like to be able to understand the poetry. I do like a good surreal poem, but for the most part I like, like grounded in reality. Ellen is really good. Talks about motherhood a lot too. I love Maggie Smith. I don't know. Kate Bear. I love all the female powerhouses out there.
That's honestly, you just, like, listed, like, all of my favorite poets too, which is probably why we're friends, Jill.
Yeah, exactly,
We just have
exactly.
the same taste in
Yeah.
poetry. You kind of look like Kate Bear a little bit. Have
You
anyone
told me
ever told
that.
you?
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. It's gorgeous, but yeah, you have
Give
like
me all the
similar.
tape Bear vibes. I want her. I want her life. So
Yeah, she's super cool. I love, Ellen Bass. Sorry, Ellen. We should know this. We should have looked this up. I feel bad, but, um, I love her poetry about sex.
uh,
There's, like, this in her collection, Meals of Love, or is
mhm.
it Meals of Love? I think
Yes.
that's the name of it. She has a whole section on sex, and there's this poem, I think, about, God and finding the G spot that I think is just so funny.
That is right up your alley. It's a good God sex poem.
It's sex and God together, like, what's not to love? Yeah, she's one of my favorite poets too.
Yeah, she's
I really like poetry that's like, I think her poetry is very narrative in the sense that there's usually a story that's being told, but her comparisons, like her similes and her metaphors are always so incredibly unique.
yeah.
There's this one line in one of her poems and it talked about like skin being plucked off like off of a chicken bone, and I'm just like, that was mind-boggling to me. That comparison was so accurate and so spot on. So I feel like that's why I love her style of narrative poetry.
Mhm.
I think I tend to lean towards like, if a poem is very narrative, then I also want there to be, like, some aspects of, like, freshness or
Yes.
uniqueness.
Yes.
But then, like, I agree with you. I love surreal poetry, but I like when it has, like, elements of grounding to it, so it doesn't
Mhm.
feel too just, like, surreal and you're just out in outer space and you don't know where you are.
Yes. I need an entry.
Yeah, I just almost spilled my water.
Oh, no.
We're good. This one is kind of, interesting, so you can go with it where you want. If you don't have any, that's okay too, but I asked Isabel this question on the last Poets podcast, and it was a fun one.
Okay.
What are some of your poetry red flags or poetry, like, icks or poetry hot takes maybe even, if you have any?
Ugh, I know. I love this, conversation that you have with Isabel about this, but I really don't have, like, that many don't like especially reading other people's poetry. Like I said, I don't like, um, pretentious language. I feel like you can tell when someone is just trying to be, like, a poet with a capital P, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I really value, like, authenticity and, like, realness as in poetry, so I can sort of tell. I mean, I feel like everyone can tell, but if they're trying too hard, right? Especially with, like, really flowery language or just trying to seem cool, um, and I don't like when people are too kinda, like, precious with their poetry, which I think is a big thing that could happen when you write a lot of motherhood poems, because you're just, everybody, loves their baby, all that stuff, but,
Mhm.
like, you gotta kinda find a like, an angle, um, and I like when people talk about, like, the hard things. I don't like happy poetry. I've noticed that, and I don't know what that says about me as a person, but, like, I really like dark poetry. Um, but, we've talked about this. I'm like, "How come
Mhm.
my happy poems on Instagram are get so much more well received than my beautiful dark poems?" So I guess I'm in the minority. People like to feel happy, but I like the poetry that guts me. But my biggest hot take is probably, lit mags. I have a very, hard relationship with lit mags in that I get rejected too much and it hurts my feelings. But I don't know. I don't we've talked about this too. I don't really understand not I don't understand, but I feel like I'm reaching a lot of people just on my Instagram page, and I
Mhm.
don't have a huge following, but, I feel like more people are reading my poems there than they would in, like, this obscure literary magazine, and it's hard to, keep going when you feel like you're getting rejected all the time, and that's why I love what your Substack, that you shared, like, at the end of last year about all the times that you got rejected, and I was like, "Wow, if Maria is getting rejected, like, there's no hope for the rest of us," but also just this game I don't understand, like, I guess that's what I'm like, I don't understand which pieces are getting accepted and which pieces aren't, and I know there's a theme and all the poems have to fit together, but it's just I feel like I get I'm very thin-skinned and, neurotic by nature, so the lit mag journey has been, a tough one for me, but I'm gonna keep going.
Mm. I think it's such a good conversation, and it's so, like, honest and fresh to hear that perspective,
Sorry, that was
because
a bit of a rant, but
no, I loved it. I loved every second of it. I think, like, you're so absolutely right in the fact that you will probably reach a lot more readers on your Instagram, even on people's Substacks, than they will for lit mags. I think, like, even the biggest lit mags, they get more submissions every year by poets than they have readers.
right.
So, like, more people are submitting to these lit mags than are actually reading them. And
Mhm.
maybe also the the demographic of people reading these lit mags is probably, like, a lot like, it's, like, older people, people who aren't reading things online, and
Mhm.
maybe as, like, younger poets, is that who we're writing to, right?
Right.
Or is that who we're, like, wanting to connect with? So,
Yeah.
I think, like, one of the best things that I've ever done for my poetry, and I'm sure you might agree with yours as well, is to share my poetry online,
Mhm.
'cause
Mhm.
to me, that's, like, the easiest way to reach people,
Yes.
and if people like, if you're sharing your poetry, is the goal not to have people read your poetry, right?
Right, and I just know for 100% fact, like, if I was just, like, a poet not on Instagram, like, before the internet times, and just submitting to these literary magazines, even if I got accepted, I don't know if I would keep going. Like, it is the just not even the like, the recognition of the positive feedback I get from sharing it, but just this, connection that you have with your readers online that it's like you
Mm,
really feel like there's something special going on, and it's not just them, like, complimenting you. It's like you feel like you're contributing to something, some, like, bigger conversation, and just that energy of sharing your work, like, in real time is just it makes me wanna keep going and motivates me, and if I was just sending it off to literary magazines, like, hearing crickets all the time, I don't know if I would've been able to, stick it out, if
mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think momentum is so important in, like, a poet's journey, and I will die on this hill that I really think poets need validation.
Mhm.
Like, I think there's sometimes
Yes.
a stigma around, like, "Oh, are you just posting that online for validation?" And it's like, "Hell yeah, that's exactly what I'm posting it online for."
Yeah.
I think it's important for you to know that you're reaching people and that people like your work, and I
Mhm.
think there's, like, nothing wrong with that, and I will be the first to admit that, like, when people share your work, like, that feels so good as a writer, and I think it's because when you're genuinely sharing, like, your poetry, it's a little bit different than sharing a selfie, like, not
Right.
that selfies are bad, I love a good selfie, don't get me wrong, but when you share a poem, it's, like, something that you've thought about, you've edited, you've worked on, you've crafted, and then for someone to say, "Hey, I love this so much, I'm gonna share it to my story," like,
Mhm.
fuck, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a small thing at all. So,
Yeah.
I think the posting your work online as a writer, one of the most underrated aspects of it is validation, and that's
Mhm.
what keeps you going. It keeps the momentum rolling,
Exactly.
and you get excited about the next poem and the next poem, and
Mhm. And I will say something I've noticed this year in particular is I've had a couple of poems that I've reshared that I wrote like years ago. And when I posted them originally, they didn't do that well. And now 2 years later, I reshared them and they're like popping off. And it's the same poem. And I think it's just, we don't understand the algorithm. We don't understand why things resonate at certain times. So, it's if you're posting your stuff out there and you're like, "I'm not even getting any love on Instagram," like, just keep going because eventually it's gonna resonate, and I think the best thing I did for my poetry, or one of the best things, was I did, the National Poetry Writing Month last year, for the first time, and I just challenged myself to post a poem every day, and just the act of just getting over it and, like, not editing it to death and just posting it, it just really gave me so much momentum and so much more confidence in my skill, and, like, now, well, now it's April again, so I'm trying to do it every day, but usually, I post every weekday, and it's not all new, I'm resharing old stuff, but, like, just getting in the habit of sharing it, like, gives you momentum, but it also, actually creates, like, some distance of the validation. Like suddenly it's like, okay, well, this poem didn't do well today, but maybe tomorrow's poem will do better. Like you just sort of see how random it all is and you take it less personally. So I really recommend doing that because that was a game changer for me for sure.
Mhm. I think that's, like, such great advice for people looking to start posting at first.
Yeah.
I think
Post
it's almost, like what was that, Jill? Sorry?
Just post it. Don't overthink it, like,
Mhm.
it's I mean, people say that to me all the like, "You're so brave for sharing this," if I'll write about, like, politics or whatever, and I'm like, "What? I'm not a doctor, like, this is just a poem," you know what I mean? Like, this is a small thing that's going out there and, it is brave to share your work, but at the same time, this is just a poem on Instagram, you know what I mean? Like, don't overthink it. Just put your
Mhm.
out there.
Mhm, I love that. It's almost like, I talk about this with Corey. Corey's my fiancé, for anyone listening that's, not aware, and I think I've mentioned him already.
Love
Um,
Corey.
we do love Corey. Corey's good people. Um, he is also an online, creator, I guess, for a living, and he posts videos on YouTube, and we often talk about this idea of, like, posting your work and sharing the thing that you love on the internet is like a dartboard. You just have to keep hitting, 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 and, like, eventually you're gonna get the bullseye, and
Yes.
you're gonna I think going into it with the understanding that 85% of the stuff you share is, like, likely not gonna go viral. Like, just set yourself up with that expectation, maybe even 90%, and then but that 10% is where that change can really happen for people and
Mhm.
where folks can, really, um like reach a lot of people and get a lot of followers and stuff like that, and follower count is not something that you should just like solely aspire to. But what I'm trying to get at is, um if you only hit 2 darts, the chance of you hitting that 10% are
Right.
just so much lower, and if
Mhm.
you just keep going, 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 eventually you're gonna get one that sort of, like, resonates and hits, and it's like, it might not even be the poem that you think is, like, your best poem. It
Yes.
might not be like, it might be this random poem that you wrote off the cuff, and you don't know that. All you know is that you write and you are going to share your writing, and so just stay focused on the daily, which is that continuous posting, and
Mhm.
you do that really well, Jill, and I think your writing has taken off, which is, like, so amazing, and I'm so happy for you, Jill. What does it, I guess, what does it feel like for you to share your work online? And do you beyond, like, just posting, do you have any other sort of words of wisdom for folks wanting to get into sharing their work online?
Um, I don't know, just do it. Like, I think that if you have a calling on your heart to write poetry, if you're making the art, you might as well be brave enough to share it, It's like and there is something special. I don't know how to articulate it, but there is an alchemy that comes when you share your work out there. And it's not yours anymore. You put it out there and, let go and let God, right? Like, I hope this finds the right person and I hope this makes a difference to someone. And I try to keep that in mind. Like, I'm not writing to go viral. I'm writing for that one person that needs to hear this or that it can make a difference for. Um, but just like, you've done so much work by writing this. Like, just take the next step and put it out there. And honestly, what will happen is nothing. Like, it will be nothing. You'll be like, and then nothing will happen. And then you just do it again and nothing will happen. But eventually, like we're talking about, something will hit and it will like it just inspire you to keep going. But even if you just post it, like when I started my account, I was like, this is just gonna be like where I keep my poems. This is like gonna be like a I don't know, not like a diary, but like, my poetry photo album is on Instagram. And, I was just doing it for me kind of. And then eventually, it took off, but it did not happen overnight. It was a very, very long time. And I think it's so much easier to go viral or to get more followers when you already have some followers. So it's like it takes a long time in the beginning, but once you get past the hump, of just like a couple of thousand followers, then it's so much easier for your account to reach more people. So just keep going. It has absolutely nothing to do with your talent. Like I said, I posted poems years ago that got like hardly any likes, and now they've gotten thousands of likes. 2 years later, it's the same exact poem. It's not like a reflection of your worth as a poet or what people think. It's just a numbers game, and that's good to keep in mind. Speaking to myself now about the lit mags too. It like that is a numbers game as well. Like just keep submitting, keep submitting. I'm trying to do the challenge I saw somewhere on the internet, like the 100 rejections. Sorry, yeah. So I'm just like keeping track of how many I get, and the goal is to get to 100. And if you get 100 no's, hopefully you'll get some yeses along the way. So just keep going. It's you got to have a thick skin to be in this game for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's really good advice. I want to just like really stress the part that you said about it not being a reflection of your talent. I
Mhm.
think that's like so important to remember. And for me, anyways, my journey on Instagram was like this. Like it was like slow, 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 and then like it's exponential. So
Yeah.
like I will be very blatantly honest and say that like growing my readership from like 20K to 50K was like infinitely easier than from 1,000 to 2,000. So just like really keep that in mind that at the beginning it's harder, but once it builds momentum and speed, then it sort of like starts to pick up. And
Mhm.
yeah, poems that I've shared like 3 years ago that nobody saw that I share now, a lot of people see. So
Yeah. It's
and
crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. So it really like it's serious, but it's not that serious. If that helps anyone feel like a little bit better, that ultimately it's kind of out of our control what happens.
And
There
something I think about a lot is like in order to succeed, right, you need like talent and you need tenacity. And I might not be able to control my talent. Like, I mean, I can try to get better, but you have your talent but I can control how tenacious I am. I can control how often I show up, the effort I put in, how often I post. Um and so I might not be the most talented poet, but I can be the most hardworking if I choose to be. So I try to keep
Mhm.
that in mind. And then I think like you are a perfect example of like talent and tenacity and like look at all the amazing things that you do. Like you are so talented naturally, but you also work your ass off and you show up every single day and you provide great services. And like that's what you need to do in order to really to make it.
Hmm. That's so kind of you, Jill. Thank you for saying that.
Of course.
That makes me feel seen. I think I've said like yes to a lot of opportunities that come my way. And I think that's another thing that if you're
Mhm.
wanting to become a poet or you are a poet, but you're looking to kind of expand your career or your path as a poet is like say yes to the things that come up. If someone asks you to hop on a podcast, say yes, even if you don't really like the host or like it's like, if there's an
That's
opportunity.
not why I'm here.
Thank you for clarifying. I was really wondering.
I begged you to come on. I was like, I will be on this podcast now.
You did. But yeah, like if you have a good idea, like I've always thought about like success doesn't happen to the people with the best ideas. It happens to the people who have ideas and execute them. There's so many
Mhm.
people who have great ideas and never follow through on them. So
Yeah.
I try to always, when I have a good idea, I act on it long before I really have my shit together. So this podcast is actually a great example. This is the second episode.
Yeah.
I have no idea really what even the name of the podcast is,
Yeah.
but
But we're here, baby. Yeah.
we're here, baby, and we're making the actions before we have this beautiful plan in place. Because maybe other people would have told me in the past, before you start a writing community, you need to have like a 3-page business plan, or before you start a podcast you need to have an editor, you need to have the
Mhm.
perfect setup and everything like that. And I've seen Corey have an idea and just start, and I feel like that's kind of like you can figure all the rest, like you can figure out the stuff later, like the details or whatever. But what paralyzes a lot of people is just inaction. It's when you think you don't have it all together, so you don't start. And I have like beautiful ideas and plans for this podcast. I would love if, you know, we have a beautiful editor one day that can put these clips onto a whole separate Instagram, and every day we have beautiful clips of poets reciting their favorite poems and stuff. Am I there yet? Like, no, but we're just starting, and it's give it a year and this will be the number one poetry podcast. I'm just saying it right now.
So you just gotta keep going, right? Just
Mhm.
keep going. That's
Yeah.
really the only advice that there is, so
Yeah, and
and
I think done is better than perfect, right?
mhm. Yeah,
So, get it
absolutely.
done. Get it done.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and something else that you're really good at, and I think all of the poetry community online that I have had the pleasure to interact with is that these are like the nicest people. And we poets on Instagram, for the most part, like don't gatekeep. Everyone is like, these are my secrets to success. This is how I'm doing this. Like everyone is so kind and giving. And it's like, it really is the more you help others and put out, like, I feel like the more it comes back to you, and, like, you're such a great example of that too, like, you're just always helping other people and giving tips, and, I mean, it's yeah, that's what you do and gather, and I just think, like, that is the coolest thing, and everyone out there, if you're trying to do that, you wanna pay that forward too, and you wanna help the people coming behind you, and like you said, just say yes. Like, just help other people, put yourself out there, go in those unique opportunities that come your way because you never know where it's going to lead.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so well said, honestly. The poetry community, I never felt like I had my crowd of people until I met the
Yeah.
poetry community, and these like, everyone on Instagram and Gather, like, as a whole, I feel like we just like, these are my people, and I think it's something to remember too, like, if you're starting to share your work online, it's like, these are real people behind these poetry
Yeah.
accounts, and, like, they will really appreciate a quick little message that you love their poem, and,
Mhm.
like, because you'll receive that too. You'll get a little quick message that someone loved your poem and it will light your day up. And I think, like, it's good to remember, sure, we're online, but, like, these are real people with real lives, with real stories
Mhm.
to tell.
Yeah.
And we all have so much love to give. And
Yes, and say hi. Like, it's just the relationships I've met from people that I write with, or the relationships, that I've started, like, you can just go deep so much faster. It's insane to be like, I've never met this person in real life, but, like, they know my whole life story because there's something about being a poet, posting your stuff, it's just like, "Here's my heart, and we will now proceed accordingly." Like, there is no small talk, like, we can really, like, go talk about the deep stuff, which is what I have craved in my, IRL friendships my whole life is, like, I need to talk about things that matter, and that's what the poetry community does, so
Mhm. I have a funny story to share about Jill and I. So, very, serendipitously, we met in Madrid last summer. She was in Madrid for a Taylor Swift concert. Very jealous about that one still. Um, and I was in Madrid as, like, a little stopover before Corey and I went to Italy last summer. And we had beautiful prosecco on this, like, gorgeous little Spanish patio, I don't know, little cute little outdoor setting. Just imagine, like, cobblestone streets and, you get the vibe. But, Jill actually predicted Corey proposing to me, which is crazy. She was like, "Is he gonna propose on this trip?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't think so." And then 2 days later, he proposes. So
we manifested it.
you did manifest it. I just think it was so special to meet up, like you said, and immediately you just have this connection. Immediately, there's no small talk, and although we had written together for a while at that point, we
Mhm.
obviously had never met in real life, and meeting in real life was like, yeah, we just like I already know your childhood trauma, you know mine, so
Let's go. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that was so fun. It was amazing. We gotta do that again.
We do, absolutely. I hope, I hope one day I have this, like, vision of just creating, like, this international poetry community, but at the same time, I think it's important to find your, like, at home in real life community as
Yes.
well, and I think
Yes. I have a couple of, writer friends now, shout out to them, in person, and it is yeah, that's a game changer of being like, "Oh, we could see each other in person." Um,
absolutely.
that's lovely, but yeah, I mean, that if you're looking for your people, like, find a writer, poet, find somebody that does this because it really will, like, short track your friendship into the real stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the real stuff in person, I know you taught your first poetry workshop a few weeks ago. How was that? I haven't actually heard about it.
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
great. It was really good. It was at a library, so it wasn't like the most well-attended event, but it was really good. I loved it. I really liked putting together the presentation. Which I mean, it was just a basic like intro to poetry, so kind of like a toolbox, but I had, example poems and we had prompts and it was good. I felt like I was channeling you in there. I would give everyone a break, time to write, and then when we had to start it up again, I'd be like, "I'd like to welcome everyone back to the room." Doing my best Maria impression. I
Aw.
taught one of your poems, the Montreal one, where you're at the restaurant. Why can't I think of what's up? That you said was a persona poem, so we kinda talked about that and how you could write multiple point of views from your different life, right? So, yeah, it was great. It was really fun, and again, it was, the people in that room, like, just got it, and people were, like, had never met each other before, and friendships were, being formed, and people shared their stuff, and it's just, like, a real, like, sacred space, and it was just so fun. I definitely wanna do it again, so
I love that. I can really see you, like, I don't know, I can picture you just, like, commanding a room with poetry, but, like, in the sweetest, most tender way possible, like, in the
yeah.
Jill way.
Yeah, it
Um,
was fun. It was a really good time, and yeah, I felt so, like, aligned doing it. I was like, "Oh," I just I love those moments when you feel like your truest self, and I was like, "I'm just talking about, like, my favorite thing to these cool people," and I just yeah, felt like I was, like, living out my purpose, so that was really awesome to experience.
Aw, that makes me so happy living out your purpose.
Mhm.
I remember the first time I ever felt that way was when this was, like, a long, long time ago. I have a distinct memory of when I realized I should become a poet. I wrote this poem, and it was one of the first poems that was ever published of mine. It was published in Sunday Mornings at the River, and it's, like, this short little poem, and I look back now and I'm like, "Oh gosh." It has the word "hoe" in it. Um, and I remember though, like, getting that, like, anthology in the mail, and I wasn't really even sharing my work online at this point, like, I still had just, like, a personal Instagram page, it
Mhm.
wasn't a poetry page at all, and I got the anthology in the mail, the Sunday Mornings at the River one, and I saw this poem and I, like, weeped. I just bawled my eyes out, and then when I went to bed that night, I just remember laying my head on the pillow and thinking, like, "This is my purpose, like, this is what I'm meant to do," and then
Mhm.
I sort of ended up running with it in the end. I think I worked in accounting for a few more years, like, maybe 2 or 3, but then
Mhm.
ended up, like, quitting at the beginning of last year. Speaking of, like, sort of transitioning out of, like, the 9 to 5 role into working for yourself, is there what was that like for you? And was it like a scary, risky thing that you did, or did it feel like the next right thing? Did it feel aligned? Or do you have any like advice to anyone that might want to look at freelancing instead of like working?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it was I just knew that I knew I wanted to do it, and I was looking at, people on Instagram, like, probably not you, but, like, I would see someone like you or, people like creative entrepreneurs is what I called them, that were just doing this, and I was like, "This is the way to live, like, this is what I wanna do." Like, I just was so jealous, and could follow, like, that envy and was like, "Okay, I'm feeling this way because I wanna do it," you know? And, I kind of knew again, like, knew that once I had kids that I wanted to be able to make this flexible career where I was mainly from home, freelancing, just working around the kids' schedule and things like that. Um, and I wish that I would have had the courage to do it sooner because I kind of used having the kids as like my excuse or my real reason. But I wish I would have done it sooner because I would have been a lot happier. But I mean, there's so much, like, privilege that comes into that, like, conversation that it's hard, you can't everyone's situation is different, but, obviously, like, I was married. My husband has a really good job that was able, like, to, to not support us because I needed to make money, but we were, we had a cushion. I have family that's able to provide like childcare for free. Like there's a lot of like privilege in my story, but I'm just so glad that I made that leap, and it was a leap. And it's been a balancing act for sure. And there's been seasons when it, works great. And I'm sure, Maria, it ebbs and flows. Like there are times when you're like, I'm doing the thing, and then time when you're scared. And it's hard being in not having a consistent monthly income, I think. But if you can do it and it's something that you're passionate about and you can be flexible, and sort of ride those highs and lows. Like it has been just an amazing experience, and I would not want to go back. Like I'm still like what am I going to do? I got to make sure I get more clients just so I don't have to go back because it's just the best. Once you're in control of your schedule like that and you can figure out what you want to do, it just works really well for me and my personality and like the vision I have for like how I want my family to look and everything. But I think that there's also a lot of downs that people don't talk about, I think people kind of glorify this whole freelance or, entrepreneur thing when it would be really comforting some days to be like, I'm just going to go into the office and like be on autopilot and do my thing. And, you have to have very clear boundaries or understand that you're going to be working at night, all weird hours. Like there are a lot of cons and risks that come with it. But for me, it's 100% the right path. So I guess I don't know if I have any advice, but all that to say, just like know yourself, like really think about what you want. And I think you were even saying like, if like I can do this for 6 months and then if it doesn't work, I'll just go back. I think there's a lot of, wisdom in that. Just try it. I wish I would have tried it sooner. I wish I would have tried it before kids because I don't know why, like, now I feel like I have more responsibility with kids. It's like I need this money now more than ever. So, but in my mind, it was like, if I have kids, that can be like a justification. And it doesn't have to be a justification. Like you can do anything you want at any time. Like just do it.
Mhm.
If you're feeling called to do it, and you have the funds to like just give it a trial period. If it's not working out, you can always go back, I guess would be
Yeah.
my advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think, like, just knowing yourself too, like, my justification when I quit my job, I wish I wish I would have done it sooner as well, but my justification was like, had a really, really shitty experience. So, like, I originally quit my first accounting job in October, and then I got another accounting job, and it was so terrible that I kind of, like, had to quit, and then that was, like, the thing that pushed me
I
into.
can't even imagine you in accounting. It's just bizarre to me. Like,
I know, can you imagine me in
must
my
have been
little.
miserable.
Yeah, it was the worst. It's like in my little business casual, like, outfit
Yeah.
every day. Oh my god, it was the worst. But I feel like, um, I used that shitty experience as, like, kinda
Mhm.
the push off, so I'm really grateful that it happened, but at the same time, for anyone that's like, "Do I need to wait until, like, you have kids or you have a shitty job experience?" No, like, you can just start at any point in time.
Mhm.
But something that I've been thinking about recently that came up in a therapy session for me was like why I was so attracted to entrepreneurship and especially like creative entrepreneurship. Something that I hadn't even really considered was when I was working in accounting and really any job that I've ever had, I've always had a really hard time with male authority figures.
Mhm.
Like I grew up with not a very loving father, and so anytime I've been in a workplace setting where there's a authority figure like a boss that's a male, it's always been really bad for my mental health, especially when they haven't been, like, kind and gentle and leading.
Right.
Like, it's always really scared me, and I've had a lot of anxiety, so I didn't realize, like, I don't have that anymore. I work for myself, like, no one's telling me what to do, no man is telling me what to do, and it feels like I'm healing a part of myself by putting myself in a situation where I don't have to experience, like, demeaning stuff talked
Mhm.
down to me, and perhaps I look back now and maybe those male authority figures in my jobs were just doing their job and that's just what they were doing. But my, like, interpretation of that was, like, I was in fight or flight all the time because I thought I was being berated the way that I was as a child. So, anyways, it got a little deep, but what I'm trying to say is that know yourself and also what the type of working conditions you like to work in. If
Mhm.
you like the routine of going somewhere and having someone tell you what to do, like that again, I agree with Jill, like, some days, damn, that would be really nice to just have someone give you a little to-do list and be able to do it. But if maybe that isn't, like, your vibe and if you would thrive on your own better, then it's definitely, like, an option to think about, something to consider, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's made me have to trust myself more, which is something that comes up in my therapy sessions a lot, is just, you have to trust that you're gonna figure it out, and I am a very, like I like to know exactly what's gonna happen, and then, if this happens, I'll do that, and then I'll pivot here, and it's like you don't know what's gonna happen in anything, but, like, you just have to trust that in the moment, you'll figure out, like, the best course of action and you'll handle it. And, I think that was why I was so hesitant really to make that leap is because I wasn't sure that I, trusted myself enough to make it work. And now that has been really healing is just showing myself that I can do it and I, yeah, can figure it out. Whatever it is, I'll find a way to make it forward, make it through. So that's been a really good lesson throughout this whole thing.
Mm. Do you find that that makes it in the future easier to take risks in your, like, journey as a creative entrepreneur when you trust yourself that and you're confident in yourself that no matter what happens, I'll be okay, I'll figure it out. Like, do you find that making decisions of, like, what clients you're gonna take on and what direction you can take, like, bigger risks?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I even have, like, a list of, like, things risks that I've taken that have worked out, you know what I mean? Or, like, situations and been like, "Look at all the stuff that I've managed to overcome." And I need yeah, I need that, like, physical list to be like, "Okay, anxiety, you're gonna be fine. Look, you've done it in the past, you can do it again." So the more you do it, the more you just, like, strengthen that muscle and the belief in yourself, gets stronger. But, yeah, I think I'm just, like, a very naturally, anxious and kinda insecure person, so that has been really, really hard, within poetry, of just, like, doubting yourself, and that's the worst thing you can do, but it's a constant fight for me to, like, overcome that, and the only way you overcome that is by doing it, is by posting the poem or going to the open mic or submitting to the lit mag, whatever it is, um, that's the only way through it. For me, that it's interesting, like, poetry, for the most part, it's not like I don't get any, money from it, like, this is, like, a love activity here. For now, I'm manifesting, but, it's harder for me. I feel more insecure here than I do in, like, my paid client work, I think because I kinda care more here, you know what I mean? Like, poetry feels like I'm like we said, like, I'm a piece of my, like, soul that I'm offering you, so I'm way more attached to the outcome than I am, like, it's so much easier to do the client work that I love and I care about, but it's not the same attachment that I have, so I'm still working through that insecurity on that side.
Mhm. Yeah, I really feel that too. I think something that, helps me overcome sometimes, like, that insecurity, which it comes up for me, like, all the time too, is I try to remember that I've written some really good poems in the past. Like, I try to remember all my bangers, like, like, I there's at least 10 really good poems that I've written,
Yes.
and I try to remember, like, "Oh, if that came from this brain and this heart, then this brain and this heart can write another good poem."
Yes.
And,
I love
like,
that. I love that.
like, if we've done it in the past, like, what's another one, you know?
Exactly, exactly. No, I agree, and you always kinda talk about abundance like that and having that mentality, and that is such a good mindset, for me personally to have and just be like, because 'cause I'm so quick to fall into that scarcity mindset and that anxiety, so just focusing on all the great poems that I've already written and how far I've come, like, that really helps me overcome it, is just looking at the successes because 'cause they're there, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, they are there, and I think they're not even hard to find. They're not even like, you don't even have to look far, you
Right.
know? You can I'm sure off the top of your head, you can name, like, 5 incredible poems that you've written,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so, like, just having those to pull up I think also, like, in your journey as a creative entrepreneur, like, that's what you've done with your list with the wins, you
Mhm.
know? All of the
Like,
risks that you've taken that have
yeah.
worked out, like
I should make a poem list of all my bangers to pull up.
You should. I think we should both. I'm gonna take your idea for the creative risks that have worked out.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like was my thesis of the year or my thing that I wanted to do this year was to take more risks in just, like, expand and gather poets. Like, I have this beautiful vision that, like, Gather Poets is this umbrella, and we have, the beautiful community here that flourishes, and then this podcast is the next iteration and then the lit mag like I want gather poets to one day be like the best home for poets in whatever way you fit in there maybe you fit in the community maybe you fit in through the podcast or the lit mag I think our Instagram bio right now for gather poets is a home for poets and I want it to be the best home for poets on the internet
It
and
is. It already is, and
oh,
it's just gonna keep taking off, but
that's so
I
kind thank you
mean, yeah, no, if I can just wax poetic about, Gather, it really is the best, and it has taken my writing to a whole 'nother level. I mean, just, like, I couldn't even imagine when I signed up all those years ago. No, what is it? Like a year and a half, that I would be here today and that my writing is would evolve the way it has, and the support from everybody, like you, but all the members is just I mean, it's a special place. It really is, the best place on the internet, a home for poets. That sounds right with our mother Maria.
Oh, that's so kind, Joe. I really feel like it is, like, the essence of what a community is, which is,
Mhm.
like, folks showing up for each other's poems, caring for each other's poems, holding our poems that aren't always, like, lovely, especially when we write about hard things, like, I think
Mhm.
it's wonderful to have a place for poets to just, like, let their work kind of rest and
Yeah.
exist and grow alongside, and I feel like it's really taken my writing to the next level too. I know that technically I'm the host of Gather, but often I feel like just another member of Gather as well, just writing alongside all my poet friends and
I mean, we make each other better. We all do. Like, everybody every time someone reads a poem, I take something from that, and it touches me or it teaches me something and it just makes me better the next time. Like, I really think we're all just like elevating each other and everyone is so kind. Like, I can't get over that. Like, there is no one everyone is a cheerleader. There's no like ulterior motives. There's no snarkiness. Like it is just a pure and safe place. And we talk about it every time it opens up. I feel like we're like texting each other, like, I hope that it's gonna be good now. Like, don't let it change the vibe. But like you said, the universe is just like sending all these like amazing people. And it's just I mean, it's weird how good it is,
I know, yeah.
Just
I'm, like, not really spiritual anymore, but I always do this, like, meditation before I open the floodgates and let people in, and, in the best way possible. You guys are, like, washing rain is what I mean by floodgates. Um but I do this meditation where I, like, try to call in like, I hope that the right people come,
Mhm.
and if I believe in God still, I really do believe that somewhere out there, God is, like, handpicking these poets
Yeah.
to bring into the community, and
I
it's
mean,
super
I believe it because it's crazy. It really is. I mean, we have a large community now and every
mhm.
single person is cool and kind and talented. Oh my gosh. I mean, like the talent in that group is crazy too. But again, even for a very insecure person like me, it's like I'm not intimidated by it, and just I know it makes me better and like I'm just surrounding myself with all these brilliant poets and I feel like I'm being built up in the process. But there's no like hierarchy or competitiveness. It's just it's really cool. You should join.
I'm not paying Jill to say this, I promise.
It is, and that really is the, part of my story, joining Gather, where, like, I feel like I just took my craft to a whole 'nother level, and, maybe it's well, I was gonna say maybe it's not gathered, but it should be gathered. But in investing in your craft or doing something to take yourself to the next level, like, is important. And, I hesitated to, spend money on anything in regards to like poetry or something where I wasn't like making money immediately from it. But like it's worth eh, the money, and I'm gonna keep investing in other opportunities to grow my skill because that's important to me, and I wanna be the best poet I can, and you have to, like, keep furthering your education in some way, so spend
Mhm.
money on yourself if you are thinking about it.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to writing great poems and, like, how are you gonna get to writing great poems? Like, are you gonna find a local writing group? Are you gonna find an Instagram group? Are like, I think there's, like, a lot of power just writing in community. I think it's also resistance to this idea that, like, I think it's resistance towards, like, the loneliness epidemic and resistance
Mhm.
towards like individualism. Like we do need each other. Like we freaking need each other so bad. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you need other writers to lift you up and support you and you support them. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure. And we really are like the first generation of people that are doing this like creative entrepreneur thing online, that have an online presence, like that are raising kids on social media, like all of this. This is really new. And I feel like people forget that, like we don't have a role model. We're not looking to our parents to be like, how often did they share selfies of their kids on Instagram? You know what I mean? Like we're setting the rules. And I feel like even though I love being freelance and all that, it can be really lonely and isolating. So when you have communities like Gather or anything where it's like forcing you to connect, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You're like getting that creative freedom of doing your own thing, but also like you're meeting up with other people and you feel less crazy. You hear about other people getting rejected from lit mags and other people talking about their insecurities. And then you see other people's wins. And like I said, nobody is gatekeeping. Like you're getting like submission opportunities. Like everybody is just trying to help each other win. And I think that's really important as a creative entrepreneur is like you need to find resources to help you feel like less alone and like you're not completely solo because it can be isolating if you do it all by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the fun in that? It's fun
Yeah.
meeting people in Madrid for prosecco. Just kidding.
Exactly. You never know where it's gonna lead you, right?
Absolutely. Jill, as we wrap up, I just wanna give you a moment, to this is kind of selfish, to be honest, but I'm just curious, what do you have up your sleeve when it comes to, like, poetry and maybe even your novel? Like, it doesn't have to be, like, any solid plans, but just, like, I'd love to hear, what we can kind of expect from Jill in the next year or so.
Yes. I am working on all right, which one do I all right, well, I am working on a young adult novel that I've just finished drafting, and I'm in the editing process now, so that I'm really excited about that, and I have big plans for it. I have never gotten this far in writing a novel. This is the largest writing project I've ever done, and so I really have no idea how long the editing process will take or what that will be like. Like, this is my first time on that ride, but I am so excited about that story and, like, sharing that with the world. So that's definitely gonna be coming down the pipeline. And then I'm also gonna, publish a collection this year. I'm putting that out, poetry collection. Um yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like I have so many poems, but I'm trying to formulate them like in the collection and make sure everything, feels cohesive and everything. So my plan is to try to send that out to different presses and try to get it picked up somewhere. And if that doesn't work, maybe I'll self-publish. But I'm putting it out there. It's gonna happen. So I'm excited. It's time for sure.
I'm so excited. I'm dying at the thought of having a book by Jill on my nightstand. Like, I think that's just gonna be, like, such a full circle moment, and, yeah, I can't wait for that to happen this year or whenever it happens, and for your novel as well.
Thank
I
you.
know I've had the pleasure of hearing a little bit about it, and I think it's going to be really interesting. And also very you, even though, like, I know your poetry and your novel are 2 obviously 2 different genres, but I feel like theme-wise, a lot of that kind of bleeds into your poetry as well.
Yes.
Do you wanna give, like, a little description of what your novel is about?
Sure. Yeah, so it's a modern retelling of the story of Medusa. So it's basically, Medusa set in, like, a high school setting. So it kinda plays with that, like, feminist ragey themes that are present in a lot of my poetry. But it kind of, loosely retells the story, set in modern times. So I'm very excited. I think it's gonna be good. I've had so much fun writing it, and it really has, like, shocked me how much my, like, prose and all my writing has gotten so much better from poetry too. Like, that's the other thing I wanted to touch on is that, like, poetry will strengthen all areas of your writing, like, if and I I'm just amazed by, like, how much better of a writer overall I am from taking this craft so seriously. So
Mhm.
it's really bled into all my copywriting work, the novel, everything that I'm touching is really, I feel like, getting a lot stronger because 'cause I'm working this poetry muscle, but yeah, I'm very excited for it, so I'm hoping it will, I actually have no timeline, but I'm gonna keep working on it. It's coming, promise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always a really special thing when a poet writes a novel. You can always tell, like, it's very obvious, I think, just in the detail, like, Olivia Gatwood's novels are like, chef's chef's kiss because
Mhm.
it's just so, like, particular and every word counts and every line is
Yeah.
beautiful. So really excited for that.
Yes, that's always been my favorite style, like lyrical prose like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's gonna be, like, a treat for so many people, like, not only young adults, but also, like, I'm excited for that, that sounds really awesome, and I think it's also a book that we probably need right now and
Yeah.
women need right now, so that
Yes.
feels, like, really important, and the timing, like, definitely aligns, and maybe you can, like, write a poetry collection one day that would be, like, you know, mirror the
Yeah.
novel or, like,
Yeah.
be its companion or something.
That would be
That'd be
cool.
cool. Well, I just wanna thank you so much, Jill, for stepping out of your busy day to chat with me about poetry and creative entrepreneurship and
Yeah,
our life and all that fun stuff. This was really fun. I always
it
love
was.
talking to you.
It was so fun. I could talk to you all day, so thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
We could talk all day for
Yeah.
sure, and we will one day.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of, Gather Poets Pod. Name to be determined. I don't know if we'll stick with that. But we'll see you all in another episode very shortly, and, feel free to check us out on Instagram at Gather Poets in the meantime, if you're curious. Jillian, what's the best way, to reach you/connect with you online?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Jillian Stacia, so it's JILLIANSTACIA. That's pretty much where I hang out all the time.
Amazing.